What's up guys, it's Brandon with Extreme Daily Drivers, where you're always balling on a budget and wrenching in our garage. And today we're going to take this baby for a spin. So as you guys probably know, I've had this car for 3 years. It's just sat in my garage. Nothing has happened to it, basically because of the engine. So during that time, I went and rebuilt the entire suspension. We have K-Sport adjustable coilovers, all new bushings, everywhere you can imagine, new bushings. I got new brakes, new discs, remanufactured calipers in the front. The calipers in the rear, I've basically replaced everything. All the seals, all the slide bolts, or slide pins, whatever they're called. It's got new pads, it's got new rotor, new ball joints, new axles. You name it. If I could get my hands on it, I replaced it. Let's talk about the engine real quick. So it's the B21A. It's the engine that's supposed to be in this car. However, this is not the engine that came in this car. I bought a short block off of eBay for $350 several months ago, a year ago actually, and got it shipped to my house. Brought it over to the guys at CW Pence, where they went ahead and rebuilt the bottom end. New pistons, new piston rings, new bearings. They balanced the crank. So let's talk exhaust for a minute. I got a ton of questions about my exhaust. So I have an OBX race header. It's a slip-on kind. It fits fine. I don't have any issues with it. It is going to a True Bends 2.25 mandrel bent cat back, basically, where I'm running an 18-inch vibrant resonator, as well as an OBX twin-tip muffler in the back. So this system I pieced together, and the reason that I got what I got is, number one, the OBX header is the only new header that I know of that actually fits on this car. Number two, True Bends is the only company that makes a cat back mandrel bent system for this car. I needed a resonator because I don't want the typical Honda fart can noise or the angry bees or whatever you want to call it. And then the muffler, I just wanted something that looked good and was going to, be a decent price. So, I mean, that's why I got what I got. I'm super happy with all of it. I got it welded up over at this place called Smitty's. It's in Middleburg, Florida, which is kind of middle of nowhere, but they did a great job. They only charged me $60 to go ahead and weld up the whole system. I said, forget it, man. Just put $100 on there because you totally deserved it. So I guess I gave them a $40 tip, but $60 is ridiculous. I mean, I was expecting to pay $300. So onto the interior. I went ahead and replaced the carpet. The biggest nightmare in the world to install. There's nothing wrong with the carpet. It's totally worth it if you buy it. It's just installing it is horrible, and I did probably a really, really bad job. My cousin's going to help me out and help me fix it though, so look forward to that in the future. But anyway, I started off with that, and then went ahead and I replaced things like the shift boot, got a new shift knob. Steering wheel was a big deal. I found this, I was flipping through a magazine one day and I found this badass steering wheel. And I was like, dude, this is the steering wheel I'm going to buy. It's like a leather suede combination made by a company called Personal. And they are out of Italy. I believe they're made by, I think Momo makes them. I can't remember who the company is. It's either Momo or Nardi who makes them. I can't remember. It's a badass steering wheel. And I had to piece together, I wanted the quick release. I wanted the NRG quick release hub, and it turned into this super expensive ordeal where all these pieces need to fit together properly. And oh my god, go to preludepower.com and look at Sam Hain's build thread, because that's where you'll find all the details on how to make this actually work. So that's basically the car in and out as far as all the work that I've done to it. I know I'm leaving a ton of stuff out, but that's basically what's been done. Let's talk real quick about initial startup. So I had my friend Sean come over, follow him on Instagram. He helped me put in the clutch and the flywheel, connect the transmission to the engine, and we put the two in together. No issues really. I did come across a broken motor mount, the transmission mount in the front. I fixed that with some window weld. Really not that big of a deal. But we got the engine in, he went home, and the next day I reassembled everything. Put it all together, started it up, and for the first time ever it idled on its own. $2 grand. It was super fast. Didn't know what the issue was, just thought it was cool and just needed to set the idle. Little did I know we had serious issues. So when I tried to set the idle, I realized that I had an issue. What was happening was I was getting a bounce where it would fall between, like, I can't remember, like 1200 and 1800, and it would just wow, 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 wow. And I went through every single issue that you could possibly think of to see what the problem was. And after doing all that, I realized it's time just to disassemble things. So the first thing I started with was my intake manifold, and once I disassembled it, I realized that when I assembled it, the gasket had folded in on one of, I missed basically where a bolt goes through, and the gasket folded into the intake, which was causing this massive vacuum leak. So once I replaced that, the car now idles perfectly. Everything's good to go. I will be doing a video on how to fix a bouncy idle because I've gone through every single thing possible to fix them, and I'm really good at them now. So I got a video coming in the future on how to fix a bouncy idle, so stay tuned for that. So I still get asked all the time about the parts that are in this car, so I'm going to go over it real quick for you guys. We have an OBX race header. It's the slip-on kind. You can see down here it's bolted on. Does it leak? Probably, but it's not too bad. This intake is for a 4th gen Acura Integra. I hacksawed it right here so the air filter element would fit in here perfectly next to my tiny little battery, which does nothing but give me trouble. Don't ever get one of these. They're terrible. And another cool thing, a little trick that I got from my buddy over there in Phoenix, Jeff. Check it out. So we have a 4th gen Honda Prelude stainless steel clutch line that goes from the master, looped around behind this horrific ABS, down to the slave. Check it out. All one cable. I got rid of the hard line. It fits perfectly. No issues. If you have a 3rd gen Prelude, you need to get yourself one of those. I still have some tightening up to do. This eventually will be up here and it'll be nice and tight and stuff, but I'm not really worried about that right now. Another thing that we did is we got rid of the vacuum box. There's usually a giant stupid vacuum box here. The only thing you need out of that vacuum box is this guy right here. It's your map sensor. So that's another trick I got from Jeff. Right now it's just kind of zip tied to the fuel line. It's actually pretty happy there, so it might stay there. But that's what's going on here. So yeah, get rid of that thing. Get rid of your stupid canister that's down there, which is supposed to trap exhaust fumes or something like that. Junk. Get rid of it. Another thing that's been deleted. ERG. People always ask me about this kind of stuff. So ERG has been deleted and blocked off. And your fast idle valve. This guy right here. See that? Deleted. You don't need it. Another thing you don't need. Coolant lines that are attached to your IACV valve. This guy right here. There are 2 coolant lines that are underneath that. You do not need them. Get rid of them and then just cap everything off. And if you're really crazy like I am, you go ahead and delete your heater core. So this line right here, it's just looped around. I don't know if you can see, but it just returns right back down there to the water pipe. All this crap sticking out of the firewall is hilarious. But anyway, this is the kind of like to and from your heater core, which actually gives you heat inside your cabin. Here in Florida, we don't need heat. So I went ahead and got rid of that. Someday I'll pull the dash and pull the whole thing out and delete all these cables and all this crap of the stuff I deleted. But until then, we still have, I think this is air conditioning stuff here. That needs to go too. So until then, that's what's hanging out. But yeah, you don't need half this stuff that's on this car. And it looks way better without it. Quick, I want to talk about the radiator. As you guys may remember from my older videos, I had an aluminum radiator in here. And the aluminum radiator fit great and held a lot of coolant. The only problem with that radiator is actually 2 issues. Number one is that a temperature sender that gets plugged into the bottom of this, and I can't show you because it's just covered with too much stuff that's in the way, but the temperature sensor that tells the computer or the car to turn that fan on when it reaches a certain temperature, it would not fit properly into the aluminum radiator. And the reason is the aluminum radiator had a coarse thread instead of a fine thread. Also, it has to be at an angle, and in the aluminum radiator, that input, or whatever you want to call it, is not at an angle. It comes straight out in 90 degrees. So even if it was threaded properly, if you were to put the sensor in, it would not clear the cross member down here. And you can see kind of just how tight everything is right here. So imagine that on the other side of the radiator, that's where that sensor is. So what I did was I got an OEM replacement radiator off Amazon. I think it was like $96 shipped. And then I bought, because I threw my old one out, I bought an OEM fan off of eBay for like 50 bucks shipped. Everything is plugged in and just goes on its own, and it's awesome because having a cooling system that works is paramount for these cars. They have lots of problems overheating. So I wanted to make sure that I wasn't running any kind of gamble with my radiator and cooling system. So it's not nearly as clean look as the old one, but at least it works. So that's what I care about right now. So you guys ready to go for a ride or what? Let's do this. Here we go. So no power steering. Oh, scrape. Which really sucks for when you're going slow. I used to have a mini truck back in the day that didn't come with power steering from the factory, and it was really hard to turn. I also had like a 12-inch steering wheel on it, which made everything even harder. So it doesn't make things easy. But anyway, yesterday I was driving to the muffler shop, and it was just open header. And it was really like my first time actually driving the car, and it was so loud and obnoxious and annoying. It was terrible. I feel like I'm driving a Mustang. And another thing is, the car, this is 140 horsepower from the factory, 130 foot-pounds of torque, I think. Not a fast car by any means, but I'm used to driving a Scion XP, which is 100 horsepower and 100 foot-pounds of torque. So, you know, I figured this is going to be substantially quicker, not to mention all the stuff I've deleted off of it, all the weight that's been cut out, and it does have an intake, header, and full exhaust. So, but at the time when I was just driving with the header, I couldn't really believe how kind of slow it was. It just seemed really lethargic, and I was hoping that once I put the exhaust system on, it would sound much better, and it did. It made a huge difference. It's like, I feel like I gained 25 horsepower just by installing the catback exhaust. So if you ever think to yourself that you're going to run open headers and be the fastest guy in the streets, you won't be. You'll be the slowest, because you're going to lose horsepower, I guess because of back pressure. I don't know. Comment below if you know why you lose so much horsepower. But anyway, that's the story. So this car rides really nice. It should, because it's basically brand new. So with that being said, it does have some rattles, which I need to figure out, because I can't stand rattles. But for the most part, it doesn't. It's pretty quiet. You know, the interior is 25 years old or whatever it is, so there are going to be some rattles in here. But, and it's lowered, you know. But I mean, for the most part, it's pretty quiet. The steering wheel's great. I got it aligned yesterday. It's got a ton of negative camber. It has to in order for the tires not to rub. I went ahead and I used a baseball bat to roll all the fenders. It kind of worked. It's not great. I need to get a fender roller and get them nice and flat, and then maybe I can get some of that camber back. You know, I don't think it's that massive right now that it's going to cause all sorts of crazy tire wear, but it might. I don't know. I've bottomed out several times. This car is crazy low, and I've scraped my header already right here, actually. So we're going to go around one of these bumps, and And then there's another one right here that we're gonna go nice and slow. And good, nothing happened. So you hear all the like panels when I accelerate, all the panels in the car shaking. So the car handles really well. It's not the best handling car I've ever driven in my life. I would have to say that was my Miata that I had back in the day, lowered on flying Miata suspension and KYB adjustable struts and the whole bit. That thing was pretty rad. But this is comparable to a new Miata. So my dad has a 2016 MX-5, and I would say this is on par with that, maybe a little bit better. And it's probably also around the same exact speed. So if I had to compare this to something new, that's what it would be. Now I haven't driven the brand new MX-5, but the 2016 can't be that far off from the new ones. And it's very similar to that. Everything is really tight. You don't even miss power steering at all once you actually start getting it going. My clutch is crazy. So I have kind of like a short throw shifter on here that I got from Mustard Cat on PreludePower.com. You send him your shifter and he welds it and chops it down a little bit and he sends it back to you. So that's what I have, and the throws are pretty short. But it's almost like I have a short throw clutch. And what I mean by that is when you push the clutch in like 3 inches, you can go into any gear you want. But if you go past 3 inches, it will not allow you to go into gear. It's the craziest thing. So you barely push the pedal down at all to shift gears in this car. It's crazy. So as I told you guys, the brakes, new calipers, new rotors, new pads, stainless steel brake lines, everything's new. But the master cylinder's not new. And when I went to drive this car for the first time a couple days ago, the pedal went basically to the floor. I was like, holy crap, I got a massive air leak somewhere or something. And when I got the alignment done yesterday, I asked the guys to take a look at it. They re-bled the lines. They said they were able to get a little air out of it. And the brake pedal is a little bit better, but the master cylinder apparently is shot. I'm not losing fluid, but because I had the brake system drained for so many, basically like 2 years, I guess the seals inside the master cylinder dried up, and now when I'm applying pressure on the brake, the fluid is going like through the seal, so it's not coming out of it, it's just passing through an area inside the master cylinder. So they went ahead and verified that it's a master cylinder. I mean, I guess they verified it the best they can. But I ordered a new one, and I gotta go ahead and install that. So my kind of like last hurdle after I fix the master cylinder that I have to fix or diagnose or whatever is that I just noticed today that my brake or my battery light's coming on when I get to like 3,500 RPM. So I'm assuming it's an alternator or it's a here we go. There's a nice pull. So anyway, it's either the alternator or the battery. Now with that being said, I just shifted at $5,000 to like for second and third gear, and I didn't get my battery light didn't come on at all. So I have no idea what the hell's going on with the battery. It's probably the stupid battery that I can't stand, that Odyssey little dumb thing. But I don't know, maybe it's my alternator. It's brand new, but who knows. So one thing that is so rad about this car is this is the closest thing you're ever going to get to a convertible that's not a convertible. It is like riding around in a fishbowl. There's so much glass in this car. It's crazy. Like your visibility is insane. You can see everything. The A-pillars are so small. The A-pillars are so small. The windshield's huge. You're right up against the windshield. The windows are big. It's so much light. It's really, really cool. And I really like it, actually. It's awesome. I won't be tinting the windows. I don't like tinting windows on older cars like this. I don't think it looks right. It hurts the look of the car. If anything, I'll get like clear tint put on that will knock out the UV rays and keep the car cooler. But I won't be putting any kind of like tint like on my XB or anything like that in this car. So another thing I love about this car is that it gets tons of airflow through it, and it's not like beating you up. So right now the sunroof is open, or moonroof, whatever you want to call it. The windows are up, but I'm getting like the right amount of air. Like you can see my hair isn't like all over the damn place, and I'm not getting beat up. The camera isn't absorbing all this wind noise. And if I put the windows down, it's the same thing. It's like a pleasant, like we're going 45 right now. It's a pleasant like atmosphere in here to even have like a conversation with somebody. Like sometimes you get in a car and you put the windows down, and the wind is just beating you up so much because of the way the car is designed that you can't even talk to the person. So I love the cabin atmosphere, the cabin environment in this car. It's freaking great. So let's talk engine break-in real quick. So not only am I breaking in the tires, 4 new tires, the brake pads, the clutch, but also the engine. So I've had 2 new cars in my life and a new motorcycle. So the way that I broke in I had a 2012 Civic Si, and the way that I broke that in was drive it like you stole it. Basically, forget about what the factory tells you and don't take it easy on the car. Just drive it like you normally drive it. So that's what I did. And I went ahead and I changed the oil probably after 1,000 miles, then changed it again at 3,000, and then went full synthetic at 5,000 mile oil changes. Well, that car didn't even have 37,000 miles on it and developed an oil leak. I never actually figured out what the oil leak was because I wound up selling it. Now, the oil leak was extremely slight. It was like 3 drips a night. But nonetheless, it's ridiculous. I mean, the car should never drip oil under any circumstances. And I was really angry. That's one of the reasons I sold the car, because I was so mad about it. So I can't remember how I broke in my Scion XB. I had a 2006 Scion XB, and I don't even remember how I did it. But I have a 2012 Kawasaki KLR motorcycle, and they're known to drink a lot of oil. So I was super cautious with that. And what I did is I kind of babied it within reason for the first like 3,000 miles. What I mean is I didn't rev it very high very often. I certainly never took it to its limit as far as rev ranges. I kept the revs as low as possible, and I did a lot of engine braking, so I downshifted all the time. Normally I never downshift. I never downshift in a car. I just put it in neutral and use the brake. That way I'm not wearing my clutch out, and I don't care about wearing brakes out. I mean, they're super cheap to replace. So it's just an easier way to drive too. So anyway, I did that with the KLR, and that has never drank an ounce of oil. And like I said, that engine has a reputation, seeing that it's a single cylinder, for burning oil. So these engines, these B21As, they have a similar background where they have a tendency to burn oil, or the rings burn out, or whatever happens to them, but it winds up drinking a lot of oil. So I'm breaking it in the same way I broke in the KLR. This car revs to, it looks like red lines around 6,500. So far I haven't gone past 5, and I've only been to 5 a small handful of times. And most of my driving is varied in the RPM ranges, so I'm not at one spot for a long time. In other words, no highway driving. And every time I go to slow down, I downshift. So hopefully time will tell whether or not this is actually going to work for this vehicle, but I'm hoping that I had the success with the KLR, so I'm going to break this car in the exact same way. Comment below if you think I should do something other than that. I can tell you this car's got 150 miles on it. I've already changed the oil 3 times, and it's on its 2nd oil filter. So I've been changing the hell out of this oil. I will change it again probably at 1,000 miles, and it's running 1040. That's what the builder recommended, just 1040 straight oil. And then I'll change it at 1,000 miles again and new filter. Then I'll go to 4,000 and I will change the oil and filter again, and then I'll go to full synthetic. So that's the plan. So anyway, guys, this is it. The Prelude is on the road. Make sure you come and hit me up at the next car show that's in Florida, because I will probably be there. Follow me on Instagram, Extreme Daily Drivers. Thank you so much for watching. Don't be a stranger, and more videos to come. The Prelude's still got a ton of work to do. This is a far from done project, so we still have brake tuck, ALB delete, the car's gonna get painted someday. All sorts of stuff needs to be fixed on this car still. So stay tuned. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. See you later.